Long before humans ruled the earth, long before cities and kingdoms, there was fear. Fear was the air our ancestors breathed. Every shadow carried danger. Every step across the plains was a gamble with death. The world belonged not to humans, but to beasts, and none cast a darker shadow than the apes. These are not the apes we know today. They were giants of muscle, their arms like tree trunks, their jaws made to crush bone. They walked the forests like kings, taking fruit, water, and shelter, while humans lingered at the edges, watching, waiting, starving. The apes moved in great troops, loud and fearless. When they raided, nothing was left behind but broken branches and fear. Early humans had no claws, no fangs, no armor. Their only choice was to run, and so they lived not as hunters, not even as equals, but as scavengers, feeding on scraps and shadows. But hunger changes everything. Hunger is the spark of courage. One season, the rains came late. The rivers dried to muddy trickles. Fruit withered on the branches. Game animals grew scarce. And the apes grew bolder, raiding further, stealing more. One night, in a starving camp, a young human named Aru sat by a dying fire. He heard the cries of children with empty bellies. He saw the hollow eyes of elders too weak to rise, and rage rose in him like fire. The apes had taken everything, but they had not taken his will. From the embers, Aru pulled a branch. He carved it sharp and hardened its tip in flame. It was not just a stick, it was defiance. It was the beginning of something no ape had ever faced before. At dawn, when the apes descended to drink from the river, Aru led his kin to follow. The others whispered he was mad. No one challenged the apes. To face them was to die. But Aru's eyes burned with something greater than fear. They did not rush the apes. They circled. They shouted. They threw stones, filling the forest with echoes. For the first time, the apes turned their gaze not on frightened prey, but on hunters who stood their ground. One ape, massive and furious, charged. Its roar shook the trees. The ground seemed to quake beneath its steps. But Aru did not run. He raised his fire-hardened spear and met the beast head-on. The clash was brutal. Flesh tore. Stone struck bone. Blood stained the earth. When the dust settled, the ape lay still. Aru trembled. He bled, but he still stood. The others stared in silence. For the first time in their memory, an ape, the king of the forest, had fallen to human hands. That day was more than survival. It was transformation. The hunted had become hunters. The powerless had found power. From that day forward, the clan learned. They learned to fight not alone, but together. They learned that fire was more than warmth. It was a weapon. That stone was more than a tool. It was power. And that courage, shared, could topple even the fiercest of beasts. They hunted not just for food, but for freedom. They became ape hunters. And those centuries have buried Aru's name. His spirit has never died. It lives in every spark of courage, in every stand against the impossible, in every victory wrestled from fear. It was Aru, the first hunter, who taught us this truth, that even the kings of the forest could fall. And from his defiance was born a new chapter in the story of humanity, the chapter of hunters. Aru's victory spread through the clan like fire. For the first time, they tasted meat not scavenged from a predator's kill, but taken by their own hands. For the first time, the children went to sleep with full bellies. And for the first time, the apes, the kings of the forest, had reason to fear humans. But victory brings danger. The apes did not forget. They mourned their fallen. In the nights that followed, they gathered in silence, watching the humans from the trees. The clan felt it, eyes glimmering in the dark, rustling branches above. The hunters had become the hunted again. One night, as flames flickered low, the apes struck. They came not for food, but for vengeance. They tore into the camp with fury, scattering women and children into the grass. Aru fought, his spear flashing in the firelight, but the apes were many, and his kin were unprepared. When dawn came, the camp lay in ruins, and the survivors wept for the fallen. That night changed everything. Aru knew a single spear was not enough. If humans were to survive, they could not wait for hunger or rage to drive them. They had to prepare. They had a plan. They had to become hunters of hunters. So the clan trained. Children learned to shape stone into blades. Fires were built higher, their smoke drifting as warnings to any beast that dared approach. They learned to move in silence, to strike as one, to use the land as their ally. No longer did they scatter when apes came near. They stalked them. They ambushed them. And one by one, the balance began to shift. The apes fought fiercely, but each season, fewer returned from battle. Their cries grew quieter in the forests. The humans spread wider across the plains. In time, other clans saw what Aru's people had done. They too began to carve stone, to wield fire, to hunt the hunters. Aru's defiance became legend, and his legend became law. No longer would humans cower at the forest's edge. They had entered a new age, an age where courage was sharper than claws, and fire was stronger than muscle. This was the birth of the Ape Hunters, a chapter not of peace, but of defiance, where humanity learned that even the fiercest kings of the wild could be toppled by will, by cunning, and by unity. And though the apes faded into the shadows of history, their battles with humans left a mark that never vanished. Aru's spirit lived on, carried in the blood of every hunter, every warrior, every dreamer who refused to kneel before fear. The hunted had risen, the hunters were born, and the story of humanity had only just begun. They learned to move not as frightened prey, but as shadows, striking with precision and purpose. No beast was safe, no night was without fire, and no hunter stood alone. Aru's defiance had become more than legend. It had become destiny, a fire passed from parent to child, from clan to clan, until all who walked upright carried within them the spirit of the ape hunters. The apes themselves, once kings of the forest, faded into silence. Driven back, beaten down, their reign ended not with a roar, but with a whisper. The age of beasts was dying. The age of hunters had begun, and though time would carry humanity far beyond the forests, to the plains, to the mountains, to the very ends of the earth, they never forgot the first truth learned by Aru. That courage can topple kings. That fire can outshine fear. That even the greatest of predators can fall before the will of those who dare to rise. The story of the ape hunters was not just the story of survival. It was the story of transformation. The moment when humans stopped running from the world and began to shape it. From that moment on, the hunted were gone. Only hunters remained. And in every act of defiance, in every battle for survival, in every dream of rising higher, the spirit of Aru still walks with us. For it was he, the first hunter, who lit the fire that would never die. If you love documentaries like this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more.